Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here with my good buddy Nathaniel Bandy.
What's up, everybody?
He is from the famed YouTube channel Nathaniel Bandy. There will be links in the description everywhere. Nate does top 10s and other weird stuff, and other not so weird stuff too, I guess. He's a good friend of mine and someone who watched SpongeBob growing up, I assume.
Oh yeah, it was one of the few shows I watched, actually.
You know, SpongeBob means a lot to a lot of people, and I thought it would kind of be fun to maybe get some of my friends or other YouTubers or whoever in here to do just a few discussions about just some random episodes that they happen to like. And Nate has been a good friend and a cool guy, so I decided to pick him first. So we are going to be talking about some of Nate's favorite episodes. This is not like a top 5 or anything like that. Some episodes he picked, but I decided to skip because they're talked about to death. But these are some that you picked that really stood out to you for one reason or another, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But before that, why don't you give a little background of like what the show means to you? When did you watch it?
I started watching SpongeBob when I lived in Norway. If you don't know where that is, it's a country in Europe. I used to be a military brat. I traveled all the time. And I was like 8 or 9 when I first watched the show. And I remember I watched it a lot with my sister and my friend Erin. And it was just something I kind of grew up with. And in Norway, we didn't have a lot of TV channels. We really just had Nickelodeon. I believe maybe Cartoon Network, but I only watched Nickelodeon. So I watched like SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, but SpongeBob was always my favorite. And I remember it was something that I would watch with my sister all the time when I was younger. Like we would have, like little sleepovers in each other's rooms, watch season 1 of SpongeBob, season 2, or whatever. It was.
Did you watch it in English? Was it subtitled or dubbed or?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I watched it in English. The reason I had so few channels was because we could watch Norwegian channels if we wanted to, but we were offered a total of 7 American channels in Norway. So that's what we had.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume you grew up, you watched the first 3 seasons. Where do you think you stopped, if you stopped?
I stopped watching them once it reached season 5. I was getting to a point where it wasn't so much that I didn't enjoy the show anymore. I was losing interest in general of cartoons. Like I was really getting into music at the time. And then when I got into high school, I started to get back into SpongeBob a little bit more. And now I'm just kind of on and off. Sometimes I want to watch it and sometimes I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. Season 5 was my dropping off point too. I stuck around for a few episodes in season 6, but yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that people know my story with it, but yeah, that seems to be a lot of the drop off for a lot of people, and that's I think where the show, season 5 was had some really good moments and was a good place to stick around even if it had flaws. You're definitely lucky to bail before 6 and 7.
Oh yeah, I actually watched season 6 and 7 like last year. Mm-hmm. I really regret that. They were absolutely terrible.
You watched them because of my videos though, didn't you?
Yes, because I had to watch them before your season reviews. I don't know why I did that. I hope season 8 is better because I'm going to be watching them for that too.
Don't we all? But the episodes you picked here were from the first 3 seasons. We have 4 episodes, pretty evenly split across them. Outside of just watching the show, is there anything socially significant to you about the show? Because where I live and when I grew up, and I don't know, maybe it's different because you grew up in different places, but SpongeBob was kind of like another language, like a secret handshake that anyone like roughly our age group knew. And if you said part of the line, anyone could repeat like the Wumbo line or the Ugly Barnacle story or the really almost mimetic parts of the show that were kind of memes before memes were memes.
Oh yeah, I definitely had experiences like that. When I knew I met a really good friend when I could say a quote in SpongeBob and they understood it immediately. Yeah, that means they grew up with SpongeBob just like, everyone that grew up with SpongeBob in our time period just understands the jokes because they're so memorable. Absolutely. And maybe it's because we were younger, but it's interesting. I watched a lot of different things when I was younger, but nothing sticks out to me like SpongeBob quotes.
It's one of those shows like Seinfeld or something that just so many jokes, so many little things just got repeated and by people, and it just kind of made the jokes evolve even past the show and just kind of become their own thing. So yeah, and I think that's part of why I talk about SpongeBob a lot and why a lot of people are interested in the show today and what's going on with it is because it does have that really deep cultural significance to a lot of people, but I think especially to our age group, because we're the OG age group. There are kids watching the show today that weren't born when the show started. Like that's just like amazing to me. And that's not to talk down to anyone else. Everyone has their own era of SpongeBob, I guess. And it'd be really interesting to talk to someone who didn't, who grew up with like watching 5, 6, and 7 or something, like starting there, and maybe working backwards or something. But I think that for our age group specifically, it's really like, if you're in college right now and you like say a SpongeBob quote in class, the room isn't going to be silent afterwards. But if you were to try to reference something like, I don't know, like Angry Beavers or something, like no one would have any idea what you're talking about. But something like SpongeBob really, really sticks. So let's start with the episodes. The first episode you wanted to talk about, and I think this is the most underrated, I guess, of the 4 you picked here. This was the one that kind of surprised me the most, not because it's bad, just because it's not one that people really talk about. Walking Small. Why'd you pick this one?
Well, I recently marathoned a bunch of SpongeBob, and I was just kind of going through seeing what I really liked, and something about Walking Small just really cracks me up. I think what gets me the most is SpongeBob's ignorance. Like, he's trying so hard to please Plankton, trying to help him with his the Mega Bucket building or whatever, but he's just not understanding how to be assertive, and just the way he acts with other people and with Plankton, it really cracks me up.
I mean, the ultimate irony of Walking Small is that Plankton is teaching SpongeBob to be assertive, but SpongeBob is only doing what Plankton is saying. He's not being assertive to Plankton. It's like a cult leader trying to teach you how to be an individualist. It's like, you gotta think for yourself and not let people walk all over you while I'm telling you exactly what you should be doing. I think there's like that irony just over the whole episode.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the pacing of the episode too. Like the whole plot just flows really, really well. I also like all the visual gags, like when SpongeBob eats all the hot dogs with his tongue is pretty funny, or uses his tooth to boomerang away all the kites.
I think the one that gets me the most, there is a lot of really good visual gags in here. The one that gets me the most probably is SpongeBob eating the ice cream when Plankton's trying to talk to him. Like Plankton's talking, and he's just having a good time with that ice cream. Not a care in the world.
So funny when he's so like loud with his ice cream, and then Plankton yells at him. He's like, "Huh?" And then there's just like a spit load of ice cream lands on Plankton.
Yep.
So funny.
I think this is, interestingly enough, and this was very true of the first 3 seasons, and even still somewhat true today, this was one of the rare Plankton episodes that had nothing to do with the formula. Nothing at all. Mm-hmm. It has to do with him expanding the chum bucket, but more so than that, it's just an episode with him interacting with SpongeBob. What his goals are, it really doesn't even matter. Like the Mega Bucket. All you need to know is that he's trying to clear the beach out. And in the process, he's kind of quote-unquote helping SpongeBob. It's a formula that doesn't always work when you try it with Squidward or someone who doesn't, or Mrs. Puff, where like they don't necessarily deserve the crap that SpongeBob puts them through. But with Plankton here, Plankton's actively trying to harm SpongeBob and harm the beach and everything, so when it all backfires in his face and when SpongeBob's stupidity and ignorance just kind of blows up at Plankton, it's well deserved. You don't feel bad for Plankton.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing about the new episodes is that whenever someone's getting hurt in those episodes, it's generally for the wrong reasons. But here, I mean, yeah, like you said, Plankton's clearly trying to cause harm. So what happens at the end it's definitely deserved. It's interesting, though, that you mentioned that Plankton wasn't specifically trying to get the formula. I think what was going on was the writers, since this was in season 1, they were still trying to figure out what's the thing that he's mainly going to try to accomplish. And I guess they figured out that, okay, he wants to try to get the formula, and that's pretty much all he tries to do in the newer episodes.
Yeah. I mean, there have been some newer ones where it is more about him operating his business. Not many, but I like that here, and that this is like one of the rare, if not only, episode in the original seasons that is about him trying to grow his brand instead of trying to take away from Krabs. And of course, I mean, of course, he's had minor appearances in other episodes that have nothing to do with the formula, but this is a Plankton episode, and it's not about the formula. He doesn't have Karen with him, which that was common in the earlier seasons. Karen, even though she was technically in his first episode, she wasn't like his computer wife until a little bit later on.
Yeah.
So it was just this episode is, and the only main characters are SpongeBob and Plankton. I mean, we see a cameo from like Larry and Scooter, the surfing guy, but like the only characters are SpongeBob and Plankton in terms of like important characters, and I think it's like fun in that it is just these two bouncing off each other, and it's the two separate ideals of like this kind of idiot, naive, happy-go-lucky guy and this evil, maniacal, jerk. But yeah, I mean, there's in the episode, there's a lot of great visual gags. The eel that just like goes right through SpongeBob to get the ice cream, and all the stuff with getting rid of the beachgoers.
And the whole scene with the metal detector is so funny.
SpongeBob's ignorance. It's easy to look at the later episodes and say, you know what, it just never works. It's always just awful, and it's always stupid, and it's like, you just kind of want to slap him and tell him to wake up and look around. But in some of the earlier ones, it really was a good shtick of like, Plankton saying something, like, no, not insertive, and SpongeBob just completely misunderstanding. Like, it works here because I don't even think it's necessarily because he's an idiot so much as because he's such a good-natured person that he interprets Plankton's, like, bad things as he's trying to filter them into a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that, actually.
So it works. And it's also, Goo Lagoon. It's just a cool location. You don't see it too often, but it's a good location. Anything else?
Not that I can think of. I think we pretty much covered this episode pretty well.
It is surprisingly a really good episode, only because like you don't hear too much about that one. I mean, when you think season 1, you hear a lot about Help Wanted, Fun,
Pizza Delivery,
Rock Bottom. These are the ones that are like the really good ones, and they are really good ones. But Walking Small, that is definitely a really good episode. I'm glad you had me rewatch this one. Now on to something that's a little more like classic and definitely beloved by all. Something Smells.
Oh yes.
Oh man, this is such a good episode. I watched it twice today, actually. I watched it, and then I watched it with the commentary on, the storyboard artist's commentary. And it was pretty interesting to hear some of the stuff they had to say. But this is, speaking of visual gags, this is another one that's just full of them. I mean, you wouldn't think an episode that's primarily just jokes about, like, fish being disgusted and running away, you wouldn't think it'd be as funny as it is. But they find so many ways to twist and turn it, like the joke where he scares away the crosswalk guard when the kids are walking and you hear like this crashing sound, and it's just a band. Like, when I was a kid, I never caught that joke really, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's really dark. That's pretty funny.
It's really clever, yeah.
Yeah, the way they do that. What do you like so much about this episode?
Well, again, similar to Walking Small, I think it's really funny seeing SpongeBob's ignorance in that, there's a lot of reasons why someone, if he's talking to somebody, like, how could he not think that maybe his breath smells bad because he was eating onions, peanuts, and ketchup? I mean, after eating all 3 of those at once, I'd imagine your breath would be kind of smelly.
Peanuts from the bathroom.
From the bathroom. And it's really funny that Patrick doesn't have a nose, so he can't smell it. So therefore, he has to... It's safe for him to assume that, okay, Patrick must know what's actually wrong. Oh, he's ugly, obviously.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I mean, this is one of those episodes where Patrick's hypocrisy is funny. It's funny to see him like try to build up SpongeBob through the whole episode, and then at the end he's like, "But I was one of the beautiful people. It can't happen to me." It's great. Like,
and the whole scene where he's trying to build up SpongeBob's motivation, saying, "I'm ugly and I'm proud."
Yep.
He starts screaming it, and Squidward's is like, "Is that what he calls it?"
That line always sticks with me. Squidward's line there. It's, if I recall, it's Squidward's only line in the episode, and
I
yet
think it is. Yeah.
it's really funny. Also of note, minor gag, but getting this thing off his chest, that's just like one of those just weird jokes. Just throw it in.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's one of those examples of like how layered the episodes were, where you just get jokes upon jokes upon jokes. And they talked about this in the commentary about how when they basically write an outline of just like story beats, and then when they're doing the storyboard, the drawings, then they come up with, you know, some of the jokes, and then they'll go to Steve Hillenburg and I think they said Derek Drymond, I think. And they'll go to them and they'll add some more jokes and they'll work on it and develop it and come up with more jokes. And like I think ideally that's how you'd write something like SpongeBob, is you come up with a basic story and some ideas of what the jokes should be, and then you just add them, and then you collaborate with other people and add more on top of that, and to the point where there's big jokes and there's small jokes and there's medium jokes and there's just jokes everywhere. And that's what this episode is. So many jokes everywhere.
It just keeps you happy the whole time. Like, even when there's nothing going on, one of the visual gags is funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like when SpongeBob's in the movie theater asking, "I hope my horrible ugliness won't bother you," and then the guy's face gets all like crunched. I don't even know how to describe it. He's like, it's, his face expression is just so funny.
Yes. Of course, we'd be remiss to not talk about the ugly barnacle.
Oh yeah, of course.
That story, they according to the commentary, they said they went through a number of versions of it until they just decided to cut it to just the bare minimum, and that's just what makes it so funny. But I think what sells it is like Patrick's face and just how sincere he seems, and how much SpongeBob, like, you could see in his eyes he needs something motivational, and it's just not there. It's just not there.
Patrick's really trying to cheer him up, but he has no idea how to help him. He's just talking and hoping that what he says is gonna be good.
Pretty much.
Like, he pretty much just says, "Hey, SpongeBob, I found out you were ugly today," and that's all he's been saying, is that SpongeBob is ugly, and
Yep.
that was his story.
Just don't be ugly. Don't feel ugly. It's okay. You're all right. Yeah.
You're ugly, but it's all right. Everyone's dying. Everyone's, running away from you. Don't worry about it.
Oh, and also the scene with when SpongeBob first runs into Patrick, that whole exchange of like, oh, maybe it's the way you're dressed, and he, it's the close-up of his dress. Maybe it's, and like that, all that is great. The close-ups there are great. Did you catch the error in the episode?
I used to know about the error, but I didn't catch it last time. What was it?
It's right around that point. SpongeBob is trying to show to Patrick that everyone runs away from him, and he goes up to a building. He's supposed to say, "Hi, building," but he says, "I just don't get it." And then he goes back to Patrick and he also says, "I just don't get it." They repeated the line.
Oh, right.
They noticed it in the commentary, but I guess it was too late to change it? I don't know. It's just weird. I think the one problem the episode had, if I could say it's a problem even, is that the ending was really just kind of like a fade out ending. There was no joke at the end. There was nothing to punctuate it. Like, I mean, the ending of them finding out that they stink and them running through like, "Oh no, we're not ugly, we stink." That's fine. But it felt like it needed one more punch. And they even said in the commentary that originally Squidward had one more line at the end. And I think that would have maybe like just kind of nailed it a little bit. But I know that's a minor gripe. That's just, just get it out there.
Yeah, it did kind of look like he was going to say something, because like they hugged him and then they just ran off. And I thought maybe it'll pan back to him and he'll say something that makes everyone laugh, but it never happened.
Yeah. SpongeBob's had some issues with endings, but
yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, great episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just great visual stuff in the episode. Not just visual gags, but I mean the artistry of the episode itself. Like when he talks to the lady in the theater and like her hair shrivels up and stuff. That looks great. Like Patrick's eyebrows fizzling off. That looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the people running away, the face that the guy makes in the movie theater. There's just a lot of really good visual stuff. The effect of the smelly breath looks good.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like the smell, it's really interesting how they kind of drew that out. Like they make it really obvious where the smell is traveling to. I have another gag that I can think of that was really funny is when he's talking to all the band players and he's just like building up all the smell, and then the smell just like goes careening towards them, and you hear bowling pins.
Yep.
Everyone gets. Oh my gosh, it's so random. Like there's a lot of random things in this episode, but it all works.
The most random thing is the didgeridoo player. Why is there a didgeridoo player? What? Just that taught me what a didgeridoo was. I learned it from that. I tell you.
He talks so fast. I didn't even know that's what that person was.
Yep.
Didgeridoo.
Yes, it's an Australian instrument.
Interesting.
Yes. Anything else to say about Something Smells?
I don't think so.
Just a classic episode. I guess the one other thing, did you notice that the colors were a little bit dull in this episode?
Yeah, they are a little dull.
This was one of the first of season 2. So in season 1, they used the old style of inking, which was like by hand inking the cells.
Mm-hmm.
In season 2, they switched over to what has been standard practice ever since like 2001 of digital inking, where it's like, you know, with a computer.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so I think they were still trying to find a nice place for SpongeBob, like a nice color for him. And so that's why this episode and Your Shoes Untied, and I think 1 or 2 of the other early season 2 episodes have this. He looks duller, and his body shape looks a little bit more like he did in season 1, where he's got like the head that leans back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just a little bit of interesting trivia about the episode, but I don't have anything else to say. I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
Another classic you picked is Graveyard Shift. So, what made you choose Graveyard Shift?
So, when I was a kid, before getting the season packs, I used to get these specially themed DVDs. Like there was SpongeBob Christmas, SpongeBob Halloween, and I had this Halloween version, and it had a bunch of Halloween-themed episodes, and one of the first ones on there, I believe it was the Graveyard Shift. And so I've watched this episode dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I guess it really relates to me because when I was a kid, I used to have to take out, obviously I took out the garbage a lot, and the whole scene with the garbage just kind of reminds me of real life, because oftentimes I would take out the garbage when it was really late at night. So just sometimes for fun, I would act like SpongeBob taking out the garbage, running to it, just chucking it into the little can or whatever, then run back inside.
Yeah. Whenever I have to like do chores at night outside or something, just scramble back inside, run out, do it, and run back in.
Yeah. Another thing about this episode is the visual gags are just amazing. I mean, seeing SpongeBob eat his hands in so many different ways is it's absolutely ridiculous. Like when he gets to the point where he's got like his hands in a popcorn bucket while Squidward's telling him the story about the hash-slinging slasher, it freaking kills me every time.
It's a great escalation of that gag, because that's one that just kind of keeps going. Like first he takes off his hands, and then he makes a big bridge over his head, and then he's biting his nails. I think what strikes me about Graveyard Shift is I don't think it's one of the funnier episodes personally. I think it's funny, but I don't think it's one of the funnier ones. But I do think that it is one with a good atmosphere.
Oh yeah, Squidward makes the episode. He does a great job telling the hash-slinging slasher story.
You know, the fact that it's at night, I think it's like darker in the Krusty Krab too, and it's quiet and it's eerie. Not that it's like scary, but it definitely sets the mood for the kind of episode they're going for very well. One of the weird things about this episode is how it's set up, in that it's just Mr. Krabs is just like, all right, well, the store's open 24 hours now, bye. Like that's the setup you get, like, because he realizes that people want to eat Krabby Patties later, and there's no. Squidward and SpongeBob can't do anything about it. Well, not that SpongeBob wants to, but Squid can't do anything about it. He tries to protest, but it's just like, all right, and that's the episode. And they don't end it. There's no ending to it either. It's just like, all right, well, I guess the Krusty Krab is 24 hours now. I don't know. It's just, it's good though, because it's, with an episode like this, you want to just get right into it. And so it was good to just kind of, they set up a reason why it's 24 hours, and then they just went. Yep,
exactly. And it fits really well with Mr. Krabs' character. I mean, obviously he's really greedy, so he wants the store to be open longer for potentially more customers. But at the same time, he can be kind of impulsive about his decisions. Yeah. So it's not surprising to imagine Mr. Krabs doing something like this.
Yeah, I guess I'd say the strength of this episode is in the tone, and also the other, not just with the arms, but there are other escalating gags. Like the at night gag itself is an escalating gag where, it starts off with him just saying it at night, and then, I burned my hand
At night.
and then he's gonna take out the trash at night.
At night.
That's one of those lines that one that sticks with people I know. Whenever my friends say that they gotta go do a chore at night or whatever, or they gotta go do something, sometimes I'll get the at night.
And another one of the greatest quotes from that episode is where Squidward says, "Who would eat a Krabby Patty at 3 a.m?" And then of course Patrick he's got his alarm set. Oh boy, 3 a.m.
That's a great cutaway gag and a great just like Patrick cameo.
Oh yeah, perfect. It's something that Patrick would do. So.
If there is one thing I have to say though, is that the story, like the hash slinging slasher, the guy that shows up, all of that is one giant cheat. Like, why is this guy looking for a job in the middle of the night in a restaurant that previously has not been open at night before? Why, like, Squidward says the buses don't run at night, so why was there a bus running at night? Nosferatu is a giant cheat. I think it works because it's funny and because it's, weird and whatever. But in terms of actually breaking down the story, I don't think that makes any sort of logical sense.
It's not supposed to make sense. I think it's all set up just to freak out SpongeBob. Because obviously
Squidward, freak out Squidward.
Well, and Squidward too.
Yeah.
I mean, ends up freaking out both of them. Oh yeah, and then when the hash slinging slasher starts to come into the Krusty Krab, and they're both confessing to each other because they think they're gonna die, and SpongeBob talks about using his clarinet as a toilet plunger.
I paid more attention to the other thing that Squidward says he always kind of likes SpongeBob. That's not something that you ever hear on this show. It's one of the very rare examples of Squid actually deep down caring for SpongeBob. People like to characterize Squidward as well, deep down he really likes SpongeBob, but if you look at 98% of the episodes, there's no evidence of that, but in very few ones like Fools in April or Pizza Delivery, there are hints of that, and so it was just kind of nice to see just that little bit in there.
The only other episode I can think of where he says he likes SpongeBob is in SB129, where he's desperate to get back home, talking to the time machine. It
was a lot more in season 1, and after that they just kind of faded it out, and Squidward just hates everything.
Yeah.
What did you think about the hair growing gags? Squidward screams and the hair grows out of him, and then SpongeBob's eyelashes.
It's pretty hilarious. I'm pretty sure it's a reference to I know it's a reference to something like really old paintings or something, but I'm not sure.
Oh. Do you know what Nosferatu is a reference to?
Yeah, he's the very first horror villain ever in film.
Really? I thought it was the first vampire. Huh. Well, I mean, I guess technically that'd be true. That's a weird punch at the end of the episode that Something Smells didn't really have. Where it's just okay, there's just this horror movie character just in black and white in the middle of SpongeBob just flickering a light switch.
He's just there.
Yeah. How about the walls oozing green slime?
Oh, yeah, that was a pretty funny gag. What's really funny about Squidward's story is he takes it so seriously, but at the same time, he keeps changing things up. Because he's what day is it? And it's Tuesday night! And then the whole wall thing, and it's funny how even while he's messing up the telling of his story, that makes it feel more genuine because, no one can tell a story perfectly, 100%. And I think that, in turn, helps freak out SpongeBob even more.
Anything else to say about the episode?
I don't think so.
All right, well, let's move on to the last one, and this is one of the best, and I think this is the quintessential Squidward episode.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, Squid's Day Off is maybe a little more quintessential Squidward, but this one's great. Just One Bite. Why did you pick this one?
It's another episode that I grew up with, and I don't know, I just really like this episode. The thing with trying to pick your favorite episodes is you'll watch a bunch of them, you'll think of, okay, these are my 4 or 5 favorites. Then you watch some more SpongeBob and you're like, wait a minute, these are my actual favorite episodes.
Welcome to my nightmare of trying to pick top 5 and bottom 5s for a season with 40 episodes in it.
Yeah, that's gotta be hard.
Try remembering all the episodes in a given season at one time. Anyway, I think this is one of the best ones of the first 3 seasons. There was this running story type in the earlier SpongeBob about SpongeBob and Patrick sometimes doing something silly or fun or weird. Squidward like poo-pooing it and saying, "Oh, that's for babies." Like, "Oh, only idiots do this." Blah, blah, blah. But then
Hmm.
Squidward secretly liking it. You saw this in Secret Box, Idiot Box. You saw this in the Snowball Effect. You see this in a few different episodes, and what's great about it is that all of the torture Squid does to himself. It's not SpongeBob's idiocy, it's not Patrick, whatever. It's Squidward being too proud to play with SpongeBob and Patrick. And in this case, it's him being too proud with the Krabby Patty. And
Hmm.
it's so great because he does it to himself. It's his own fault.
And watching him struggle to keep a secret just to avoid, having SpongeBob satisfied it's really entertaining to watch. Like when SpongeBob has to throw away the Krabby Patty that was in the garbage. Also, the garbage scene, how did Squidward miss that Krabby Patty? It was right on top. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
That's what's great. You just see him shovel the whole thing. Does this face look unsure to you? My girlfriend turned to me and was like, "That's the face you make all the time."
Oh
And
my gosh.
Oh, man. And I love Squidward's theatrics of, like, he fights it and then he's like, I condemn everyone who's ever eaten this to an early grave. Or it's like an early and well-deserved grave. It's so hard. One of the, like, really minor things about this episode I really enjoy for some reason is watching when SpongeBob's flipping the patties and Squidward's watching him and his eyeballs flip, or not eyeballs, I guess, eye rectangles flip like the patty.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a minor thing, but I thought it's like such a cool visual gag because his eyes do look like Krabby Patties.
It really helps demonstrate how much he wants a Krabby Patty.
Much like with Something Spells, there is a lot of great art in this episode, like the SpongeBob wearing all the trash, the unsure face. Like, there's just a lot of really good art. Squidward's bloated thighs at the end.
Oh, yeah. Even just, like, the patty hype. Like, I remember, obviously, Employee of the Month, there was a lot of Krabby Patties in one episode, but seeing, like, the patty vault, like,
Yeah.
for me, that looks really appetizing. Like, I would love to be Squidward. Because, like, just being able to have that whole vault to yourself, eat as many Krabby Patties as you want, that looks really delicious to me.
Did you know there's a deleted scene in this episode?
Yes, I've seen it one time. I don't remember what the deleted scene was, though.
It is on YouTube, and I'll link it in annotation and stuff if anyone hasn't seen it. But it is so when Squidward gets to the Krusty Krab in the edited version that is on the DVD, you see he looks through the window and then it zooms right into the patty vault and then he's just there. But in the original cut, he like looks around for security and then he opens the door and then a bucket falls on him and he's like, "Oh, well, that's like that seemed to be like too easy." He says something like that and then a match falls and it turns out it was like lighter fluid and he bursts into flames screaming.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then he runs into the back where SpongeBob grills the patties and he opens that door and another bucket falls. And he's lit on fire again. Something about like 9/11 or something made that clip not be appropriate for air or something. I mean, it is a little brutal, I guess, but there's been more brutal
There's
stuff.
been way worse. Yeah, it must have just been something going on within current events.
Yeah. They approved the toenail scene later on.
Yeah, and that's disgusting.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that deleted scene is really funny. And it's probably even funnier because it is deleted, knowing it's like, oh, forbidden scene.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, it's coming back. I do remember seeing that.
And it's one of those, Squidward does one of those great, like, screams that he does.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Bumbix can scream in a really funny way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. Other times, it's just horrific. It really depends on the context. But yeah, man, I think, like, that sequence of SpongeBob trying to get Squidward to eat the Krabby Patty, like, that right there is, like, classic SpongeBob. Like, if you need to show someone a clip to understand like what the show is, I guess, like that would be a good clip to kind of get someone hooked. It's one of those, the show occasionally will do this where it's just a bunch of just quick gags, like a character tries to do something and it's almost a montage of it, and the little things with it, like if I didn't want it out there, what makes you think I'd want to eat it in here?
And he like handcuffs him.
Yep. How serious about this are you? And yeah, the handcuff. You know what I like too is that SpongeBob even apologizes for being so pushy with it. Like when
Yeah.
when Squidward's going nuts over watching him fry it, if you listen, SpongeBob is saying like, "Oh, well, you know, I shouldn't have pushed it so hard. Everyone has a right to their own opinion, and even though I disagree with it, you know, it's okay that you don't like Krabby Patty." Like he says that, and I think that's I don't think that was even like needed, but I think that's a cute thing that's like, oh, see, SpongeBob, the one thing that SpongeBob was maybe in the wrong about in the episode or whatever, he even apologizes for, and that just makes it just fine. Like it's not like any of the other episodes where SpongeBob like completely tortures Squidward and seems to be just oblivious and you know it's
Exactly.
his fault just for being careless. Like in this episode, SpongeBob tortures Squidward, but not through carelessness because Squidward is lying and it's his own stupid, prideful fault.
And he's not even really torturing Squidward. He's just continuously asking him, just like in different places.
Yeah, well, I don't mean that he's intentionally. I just mean that what he's doing with like burning the patty and stuff is torture to Squidward.
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
Even though, yeah, SpongeBob would have no idea the cremation and where he Squidward orders the patty and then SpongeBob's like, I think I'm gonna take it to the customer, and Squid's face falls right on the grill.
Yep.
Oh, it's such a good episode. It really is.
We're forgetting about one thing, though. That when SpongeBob first finds out that Squidward likes Krabby Patties, that face he makes.
Yes,
he's like,
yes.
You like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? And then Squidward's trying to tell him he doesn't. He just puts his hands on his thighs. Oh my gosh.
That face is, in my opinion, that's a better troll face than the troll face we have now. I wish that was the universal symbol for trolling. Because that face of just like, that is the face of like waiting for like getting a reaction out of someone, like getting a rise out of them.
He's like, anytime
like,
now.
Like, oh,
you're gonna admit it.
Mm-hmm. Nathaniel Bandy likes pink gold peach, doesn't he?
Yeah, right. That is not true.
You know, we're forgetting about one more thing, and it's that the Krabby Patties will go straight to Squid's thighs before he'll blow up.
That's right. And then he'll just become a head.
That was one of those jokes that I don't think I really appreciated that much when I was a kid, but as an adult, just like, just the exchange of like, oh, what, I'm gonna blow up, yeah, right, and then SpongeBob's like, no, it'll go straight to your thighs, and then you'll blow up, like, and then yeah, and then cut to his head in the ambulance, and the guy, I remember my first Krabby Patty, like that's a great ending right there.
Mm-hmm.
That goes out with a nice little punch. You had some great picks here. You have great taste in SpongeBob, sir.
Yes.
So yes. So unless, do you have anything else to say to wrap things up?
I don't think so. Aside from thanks for having me on. This has been fun.
Thanks for coming. Please check out Nathaniel Bandy's channel if you would like to see some top 10s, complaining about Pink Gold Peach, really random yes videos. Anything else?
If you like video games, you like my channel.
Yeah, Nate's on the road to 100K, so let's cheer him on for
close.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. With that, Pie Guy Rules out.
See you guys later.